Guys, welcome back to another episode of Always Making. Thanks for joining us again in our basement studio. We've got another great guest joining us for the conversation about all the awesome things they're making here in the greater Salt Lake area. Before we get into that conversation, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. We're going to get into that conversation, but before we do, we've got some housekeeping to take care of. We are today, if you are joining us on the day of this episode releasing, we are in Ogden up at the Union Station for Craft Lake City's holiday market. Join us tonight from 5 to 10, I believe is today's show.
Friday and then Saturday is...
it goes till 4 o'clock. It opens at, I want to say 12 o'clock. Yeah,
really
check the website. Timing, don't quote us on that.
Or check
their
our
website.
Instagram. We'll post
check
it on
our
Instagram.
for that one also. And then on the 13th of December, we are going to be at Midvale's Light Up Main Street event. That's going to be a fun one. It might be a little cold at night, but that one will be a fun one as well. And we might have one more holiday market coming up as well before the season wraps up. Check our social media at Steadfast Rebels. But that is going to do it. If you guys know other artists in the local greater Salt Lake area, please send them our way. We'd love to have their conversation, but that is going to do our housekeeping. Let's get into the conversation with the Nerf Herder Co. Melissa, thanks for joining us here in our studio.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
This has been a long time coming. Christy has been trying to find a time to get you down here.
Well, I've been following your account for a while.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was last year that I was like, oh, we got to get her on the podcast. And then I didn't reach out until a couple months ago. But then of course life happens and we got to reschedule a couple of times. I feel like that's been the theme this season. As you can hear, I'm recovering from being sick. I'm feeling better, but sound terrible. But yeah, I'm glad you're here. Glad we made it happen.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us all about what you do and how you got started?
Sure. So as mentioned, I run the Nerf Herder Co., which is primarily based around creating fragrance-based products. So think like candles, wax melts, fragrance mist, roller balls, all of that. And I started out doing Star Wars inspired stuff because that's something that I've loved since, I don't know if I should say the year because it's really going to age me, but we'll just say late 90s, which again still ages me, but I'm not going to specify the year.
That's all right.
And then after I was doing that for a bit, I started getting into book related things because before I had kids, I did have hobbies, which one of them included reading. And I also read a ton as a kid. So I wanted to expand a little bit because while I love Star Wars, I wanted to stretch myself a little more creatively and not just focus on that one niche. And so I kind of split my time right now between doing Star Wars and book related items. And so primarily, again, what I do is fragrance based stuff, but I have done like the occasional shirt, sticker, cups, things like that. But most of what you'll see are like the candles and wax melts that are all based on like nerdy stuff. So basically I'm appeasing my 12-year-old inner child with what I get to do every day.
When did the fragrance based stuff get started for you? When did that all start?
So basically during COVID. So like a lot of other people's stories, trying to find other things to do while we were in quarantine. And I was trying to find another way to be creative because previously I was working in finance, which is not usually a very creative outlet for people, or at least with what I was doing, not creative in what I wanted to be doing. And so just kind of one day I decided to see if I could make wax melts, which I'd never really done before. But I was tired of the candles that I had in our house because I felt for me they were just super strong. But I wanted our house to still smell good. Mm-hmm. And so I'd had these silicone little shapes that had been for like different Star Wars characters and stuff that I'd had for our kids when I was making some of their like pureed food to make it a little more interesting. Turns out they didn't really care about the fact that they got, avocados in the shape of Millennium Falcon. It was mostly just for me.
What?
But they obviously aged out of that. So I had these little trays just sitting around. So I thought, well, if I deconstruct one of these candles, melt it down and pour it in here, can I make that work? And I had no idea what I was doing at all. Like I spent a little time Googling and I probably did some pretty unsafe things. So I'm not going to repeat any of them here. So you don't copy me.
Don't try that at home.
Right, exactly. And so I just poured the melted wax into them and popped out these cute little X-Wings and Millennium Falcons and went, hey, that's kind of cool. Like, is anybody already doing things like this? And so that's when my brain kind of switched into business mode, which what I was doing in finance was related to like looking at small business financials and things like that. So I had a general idea as to kind of how to approach starting a business. So I started doing like market research, which at that time just involved like looking on Etsy, which I saw some people already kind of doing it, like making some candles or like wax melts in the shapes of what I'd already done. But I still felt that there was a little bit of a market. Like I didn't like their marketing or the sense that they did, things like that. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can try. And then I started doing more research and development because obviously the way I started it was not the way to actually do it. So I spent a lot of time Googling, watching YouTube videos. I even reached out to my mom because she had done some candles here and there just to get an idea as to where I can even look for supplies because I had never done anything like this before. And then just started actually making things. I started coming up and thinking of like the characters I first wanted to do that like, especially looking out in the market that I didn't feel were covered very well. That's like the first one that I ever started working on was for Padme because at that time, so this was in December of 2020 when I first started doing all my research and development. And at that time, there really wasn't that much Padme merch. Luckily, since then, it's kind of blown up a bit, which is great. But that was the first one that I worked on. First scent that I ever created. Then it was General Kenobi. Then it was Qui-Gon, who's always been one of my favorite characters, and there was literally nothing out there for him. And I'm like, all right, I got to cover him. And then I started, I think it was a few weeks before I launched in mid-January of 2021. I started building a little bit of an online social presence. I mean, again, I had no clue what I was doing. On my personal Instagram, I had like 6 followers. I posted very sporadically, so I didn't already have a following that way to pull over. And I think by the time I launched, I had like 60 followers. So not a ton, but I was getting really good feedback on the initial pictures that I was posting. And so I was hopeful that it would go pretty well. And on launch day, it actually did go well. Obviously, my mom was one of my first orders, but I was like, okay, can I get other people to order from me? And luckily, I found my audience and just kind of grew from there. Started with wax melts, then went to candles and then fragrance mists. And here we are almost, oh my gosh, 5 years later.
Yeah.
So
how do you come up with a sense for your characters?
So that's the biggest question that I always get. And unfortunately, there's no scientific process for it. So that's a problem if and when I need to bring somebody else in. Crafting the scents, I'll just kind of see if they have that already because I can't really teach them because a lot of times it's just vibes that I go based on. For instance, like for a character like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I do have different iterations for him. Like I've got young Obi-Wan, so like Phantom Menace era, then I've got General Kenobi, and then I've got Ben Kenobi for when he's older. So for him, like when I started doing General Kenobi, I just kind of thought of his personality, the clothing that he wore, stuff like that. So like for him, I wasn't going to give him like, very flowery scent like that. To me, just wouldn't have worked. And I also thought in that period of life, I felt he needed a stronger masculine scent. So I just kind of bought some online that based on the descriptions I thought would work. And then I just would get them, open them, and kind of smell them. Sometimes when I do it, I'll know right away, like, oh, this is perfect. Maybe I'll just add in one other thing. Others I have to sit on for a while, and then maybe it'll come to me later. Or I've had some fragrances probably for a couple of years that are just sitting there that like haven't really, I felt like worked with anything. So it's just one of those things that like every time I get a scent to work, it just internally clicks. And I'm like, nope, this is for this. And And so some, again, I hit it right away. Others, like my Binary Sunset one that's for Tatooine, literally took me about 2.5 years to find something that I felt worked. And I even sat on the eventual scent that I went with for probably a couple of months because I was so paranoid about it, I guess, because I'd been sitting on it for so long and I'd smelled so many things. I'm like, is this really it?
Does this
Are
actually,
we sure?
Yeah.
And then again, it was one day where I was like, no, this is it. And so then just doing testing to make sure that it works with the wax well, that it burns well if it's in a candle. Like there's all these kinds of scientific like chemistry and math things you got to do to make sure things work correctly. But in terms of, like you asked, the actual scent, it's just a feeling that I get. There's nothing else really than that.
Yeah. I feel like I get it though. Like it just has to click. It has to make sense. I mean, scent is one of those like senses that I think invokes so much like memory and feeling and right. Like it's very tied into our memories and our feelings and emotions. So yeah, I think it makes sense that it's one of those things where like when you smell it,
right?
Do you have customers that come back and be like, no, that's not like Tatooine smell or something?
None directly to me. I mean, when I do in-person events, I can kind of see people's faces and sometimes they can kind of go,
No.
and you know what? I'm not offended by that at all because I've also bought some of my competitor stuff just to kind of see like, what was your approach to this? Like, because just because I have one way of seeing it doesn't mean that I'm right.
Yeah.
I mean, in most cases I am, but no. So, and there have been times where I'm like, you know what? I like your take on it. Other times I've been like, that was interesting. Like again, if it works for you, that's great. But so far at least like, I have a really good return rate of customers. All of my reviews, knock on wood, have been really good. So at least from the internet side, like obviously I can't see when they get the package and then they open it and go. So the only way has been in person and I occasionally see that. But like luckily nobody's come up to me and said like, oh, this was terrible. Like, how did you come up with that? No, I will say probably the exact opposite of that. The best comment I got was actually this year at FanX. Somebody was just with their friends, and I guess they loved Star Wars, so they just picked up one of the candles and turned it so they couldn't see the label, and the girl smelled it and said, "Kylo Ren," and it was my Kylo Ren candle, and I about lost it. I was like, "Wait, how did that happen? That you guessed that?" Yeah, I was blown away by that. I was like, "You get this." I'm like, maybe you need to come work with me because apparently we're on the same level. So I'm sure it'll happen one day that I'll get a direct comment, but you know what? It doesn't bother me at all because I totally get it.
Yeah. You brought up a point when you were talking about some of the things, because you have the different fragrance like things. When you go from a melt to a candle to a roller to your stuff, is there different things you have to kind of apply for your fragrances to like stay similar across all your different lines?
So there's nothing I really like add or subtract per se, but I do have to adjust the amount of fragrance that I put into something, because especially depending on the fragrance oil itself as well. Some maybe stronger in like a candle versus a wax melt because the heat that's applied is different. Or one may need to be upped a little bit when it goes into like a fragrance mist because that's like a sugarcane alcohol base that I use. Mm-hmm. So that's where my adjustments go into. But luckily it's not like super tricky. I just have like a spreadsheet of like, for one fragrance oil, maybe in the candle I use a 10% load as we say, or in like a wax melt, I have to use, 8%. So that takes a little bit of practice and testing, especially when I create new products. But with that spreadsheet, it makes it really easy to just re-up my inventory whenever I need to.
So I want to talk a little bit about your creative process, because all your different techniques and everything that you go into with like how you have to deal with all your different like products that you have. But when you come up with your like new product line, I guess is how I guess it would be a fair way to call it.
Yeah.
Like, how long of a development process do you have when you're going to come up with a new like product that you're going to put out there on the market for you?
So typically I need a few weeks, and really that timeline is set by how long I need the testing I need to do for candles and how long they need to cure, which basically just means that you need to give in this case I use soy wax, you need to give that time to harden and kind of gel with the fragrance oil in there. I do use one that is pretty stable even after just 24 hours, and sometimes I've been maybe a little too gung-ho to start doing my testing just to make sure everything is good. But I at least give it a few days, but ideally you're giving that wax 1 to 2 weeks to cure, to make sure that, you know, you're not getting any random sinkholes that form, which are basically like the holes you can see from the top, or you're not having what's called sweating, which is where the fragrance oil actually really hasn't bonded well with the soy wax, and you'll actually see it kind of on top, and it does look like sweat. I have been doing this long enough that typically I have a good understanding of how things are going to work. So I'm lucky that I generally, again, knock on wood, have really many fails where I'm like, oh, that did not work. The biggest fails I'll have is I'll think that like, oh, these fragrance oils will work together well when I mix them up. And they might initially, but as that curing time goes along, something in it changes. Because again, we're dealing with chemistry, that when I smell it later, when it's not burned, which is what's called the cold throw, that it smells a little funky, or I'll light it. And you know, when the heat hits it, it changes again something, and then it smells off. Then I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad I waited, you know, a week for that to fail. So again, luckily I have a good understanding now after having, you know, done this for about 5 years, that I don't have things epically fail. Sometimes I'll have to make like little tweaks here and there, but typically the longest part is that fragrance testing period. Because usually when I'm doing the art for my labels, it doesn't take that long because I've already been kind of brainstorming it for a while. I've only had a handful where I work on it for a while and it's just not hitting everything I make. I'm not really liking it. So I'll have to leave it for 1 to 2 days, do completely different things, and then go back to it. And either sometimes I've just had to completely scrap it and start over, or I just like make little tweaks and realize, oh, you know, I had the idea, I just needed to change a couple of things, and there it is. So it's usually a few weeks once I have an idea in mind. So it's not these are not the kind of products where you can have an idea one day and then turn it around the next. It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Right.
Is there, I guess, lack of I guess maybe lack of a better term, but is there a white whale that you haven't been able to like conquer yet of a theme?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's there was one. Oh man. It's copying the green milk drink that's sold in Galaxy's Edge.
Okay.
Because I now somebody might disagree with me, but I feel like I nailed blue milk.
Yeah.
And that one actually happened relatively quickly, and that was one I thought was going to take me a while, because there's a lot of different, in this case, flavors in the drink.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you look at the ingredients, it's a little more complex than you think. And so I'm like, oh man, this is going to take me a bit candle wise. I don't know. Apparently I was just on one that day. Did it the first time. And I had already kind of made like a copycat recipe because it had been a little bit since I'd been there. And I tasted it. And I know this might sound weird, but the fragrance smelled like the drink tasted, which was what I was going for. But green milk, man, that's been tough. I'm not giving up, but it has been literally years. And I'll kind of like dip back into it. I'm like, all right, maybe I'll try like this lemongrass scent or something to try and I'm like, I still can't get it. And It drives me up the wall. Like the day that I get it, I will like scream from the rooftops. Like everybody in the Salt Lake Valley will know that I got it because I'm like, finally.
Like, oh, what's that noise? Oh, she got the green milk. Got it.
Okay,
Yes,
got it.
exactly. So that is, I will get it one day. I swear, I will get it, but just not yet.
So so you got the blue milk, but did you get the blue milk from the cantina, or did you get the blue milk from the
The stall
from the stall outside?
This was
yeah.
the stall.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I do
It was
prefer the
stall.
blue milk from the stall, not the cantina.
I agree.
I like, yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
the cantina blue milk was a little weird. I wasn't too fond of
Yeah.
the blue milk from Galaxy's
It's
Edge.
all about the stall.
Yeah.
And that's the one, like my copycat recipe. That's the one that I went for.
I would say we are the blue milk of the people. We
Yeah.
want the, with the one from the stall, not the fancy
from
cantina.
cantina.
No. Mm-mm. Stall all the way.
cookies, though, from the cantina that come with
I
blue
mean,
milk were
yeah.
pretty good.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
Yeah, they weren't bad.
They should just sell those as an optional like side at the stall.
Yeah.
They should. They'd make a ton of money because I would buy
Oh my
it.
gosh, totally. Like get a side of cookies with your green or blue milk.
Right? I'm like, because money doesn't count when you're there. It's like, oh, $6 for those? That's fine. Just take it.
It makes total sense.
Yes.
You don't only do Star Wars fandom for your stuff. You do other fandoms.
Mm-hmm.
What are your other fandoms that you really dive into besides the Star Wars?
So when I initially branched out, I started doing stuff that was book related, specifically a Court of Thorn and Roses, or ACOTAR if you're into the book world. And that was actually where I got my first author license, which was great, and kind of figuring out that whole process, which if anybody wants to know, no, my Star Wars stuff is not licensed. Don't tell anybody.
It's inspired.
It is very much inspired. Yes. And from there, I did a few other authors, kind of dipping my toe further into being licensed and working with author teams and occasionally the authors themselves. And then after that, I believe my next one that I did was a Lord of the Rings inspired collection. Because with Lord of the Rings, I kind of go in and out with it. I remember, this is going to age people. I'm going to say it anyway. When Return of the King came out, I was in high school. And I was like super into it, like extended editions, just loved it. But then got busy with college, grad school, getting married, kids. But now I've started doing like kind of the annual like fall rewatch of only the extended editions. Love it. And so just remembering how much I loved that universe, I decided to create some products on it. And I am bad with advertising it, unfortunately, but I actually have a lot of interest in it, particularly in person, because there's not really anybody that does stuff like that for Lord of the Rings. I think those are kind of the big ones. I am working on right now, kind of inspired by my daughter's love for it, but some stuff inspired by K-pop Demon Hunters. Because I've had some ideas kind of floating in the back of my head, and my daughter is obsessed with it. So I kind of thought it might be fun to make a few things and also give her like a little perfume for Christmas. Luckily, she doesn't watch podcasts, so she doesn't know that she's getting that as a present.
Alert.
So I'm safe. She's only 8, so we're good. So that's kind of what I've been doing in terms of like the different, I guess, universes I've kind of gone into. I don't have any major plans or any ideas kind of upcoming, because I'm just trying to get through the holiday season, work through supply chain issues, all of that fun stuff as a small business. So hopefully I'll have some more ideas in the future, but right now I'm kind of tapped out.
I want to hit on something you just talked about, working directly with the authors. That's a thing that's pretty cool. How did you even attempt to like go that route and go directly to them? What is the approach that you have to do to even start that conversation?
Yeah, so it does kind of depend on the author and their team in terms of how that works. But what I found typically is you'll just go to the author website and find wherever you can contact them. And usually they have either a contact me section, or they'll have different email distributions to reach out to, depending on if it's a media inquiry or in this case, like merchandise rights. And so for my first one, Sarah J. Mass, she has a team that covers all of that. So I just reached out to them, introduced myself, what I do, and gave them like a few examples. And even with that one, I gave an example of what I was proposing for one particular very popular character. So we kind of went back and forth a little bit, and they liked what I was proposing. So signed a contract, royalties, all that fun stuff. So that's kind of how they've typically gone. I have had one author, Lauren Roberts, who wrote like the Powerless trilogy, which is kind of a set of YA books. She has a third party handle her merch, and they actually reached out to me to create cool. a collection. No, it was cool until I found out. Then they reached out to a ton of others. At first, I was like, "Oh, it's just me."
But even
it wasn't.
Being reached out to in general.
It was like when I opened my email. I think it was literally about 5:00 in the morning. Kind of looking at it, going, "Is this spam? Like, is this an actual like legit request? Like, what are we doing here?" Luckily, it was fully legit.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a one-off, having somebody reach out. So that's not a typical thing. Usually you have to initiate the contact and work through that. I've been pretty lucky that things have worked out pretty easily. I don't have to go back and forth a million times with, either the author or other author's team to get approvals on my products, which has been nice. But yeah, it's been really cool to be able to say, like, all of my book related stuff is officially licensed with the authors. So
did you like go through like a legal side on your side to like get your like royalty side of things like figured out, or did you have contracts? Like, how did you go about getting your contracts like buttoned up on your part of it? Like,
so the contracts are, I guess, having dealt with a lot of small business stuff in like my finance career, I didn't find reading the contracts to be like really intimidating. To me, they were relatively, as I say, like boilerplate, which just means that it's pretty typical language in terms of like the requirements. And none of them were very demanding, I'd say, of their requirements. And especially a lot of the teams that I've worked with are pretty easy in terms of like how to submit things, the disclaimers you need to put on your website. Things like that. So, none of them have been very hard. So I could read the contracts myself. I would do a little bit of research, more of just kind of overall research to understand, like, the royalties that they're requiring. Does that make sense for the industry and also like the popularity of this author? Or there would be some that would just require like a flat fee. Did that make sense based upon how much I was thinking I might be able to sell? So for me personally, I was comfortable doing it. I know some people might not, so reaching out to a lawyer may be helpful. But if you have a similar background to me, or if you've been doing it for a while, reading these contracts is luckily not a stressful thing at all.
Yeah, because we've talked to a few different people on the podcast about just reaching out, and so that's the biggest thing for a lot of people out there. Like, you did the easy part. Well, I guess not the easy part, but you did the hard part of just the reaching out side of it. And it wasn't even that complicated. You just went onto a contact page and reach out. So like, for you guys out there listening, it is as easy as going on a website, finding the right information, and just sending an email and hoping to hear back. Like,
that's the biggest thing is, a fair amount of times you will just be ghosted.
Yeah.
Maybe because they're super popular and get a lot of requests, or maybe they're not even licensing what you create. Or like in one case, I had an author that would have loved to have worked with me, but their lawyer advised them not to, just because of making candles and stuff. They felt that was a big liability. Even though I told them, like, I have liability insurance, so if anything goes wrong with the product, it's not on you, it's me. And I've been doing this almost 5 years, but the lawyer was just like, basically absolutely not. Even though the author themselves and her assistant loved like my proposal and what I was doing, and it made me really sad because I was like, I had some amazing ideas that we could have done. So in my case, that was like the first like no to my face that I've gotten. And I'm sure that there have been others that have maybe been in a similar situation for my products, or they just weren't interested. So a lot of the times, don't be surprised if you never hear anything back. It's just kind of the nature of the game.
Yeah.
But if you do hear back, then that's super exciting to be able to hopefully go forward with that relationship.
Yeah. But you would never know if you don't try.
Exactly.
That's
right?
the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to do it. I remember the first email that I sent, I probably looked that thing over about 50 times. And just know, and I should have remembered this from corporate America, even though I listed out all of what I did and what I was proposing to make, the email that I got back was, what products are you going to make? I'm like, check the body of the email. But I'm like, okay, I have to remember I worked in corporate America and dealt also with that same stuff that you can be explicit as you want. They are not going to read it very detailed. So don't be surprised if you also have to go back and forth a little bit with that.
Yep.
It's going to depend on the team, but
it could be right in the header of the email. I make candles.
Yep.
What are you going to make?
Right? Yeah. When I got that, I was just kind of like,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Hopefully this is not a signal of what's to come. And luckily it was not. Like, their team was great. But sometimes you just be a little patient.
Yeah.
So, and don't be afraid to also follow up.
Yeah.
I followed up after about a week on one just to see, and that relationship was able to move forward. They were just so busy. But yeah, just don't be afraid to reach out. I mean, again, the worst thing that will happen is they'll say no. You can cry about it that night, eat some ice cream, and wake up the next day and just move forward. You'll be okay. I promise you'll be okay.
I do want to go into a little bit of your starting up with everything that you did with, like, back in 2021 when you got started with it. You started with a website, you said, launching everything. When did you start doing, like, your first market? Because you did have a market presence as well.
So I started my Etsy first. And then when I was really kind of starting to pick up traction, I created my website in July of that year. I think I did my first market in October, which was just some random, like, Halloween themed one. Which actually went pretty decent for, like, the traffic that we got and the theme, because no surprise, the Star Wars fans kind of come out of the woodwork. Now, when some of them saw my stuff, they're like, oh my gosh, you create, this stuff? Or the really deep cut was one guy coming up and saying, you have something for Darth Revan? I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, I try and cover as much as I can, which I would not have looked at him and been like, oh, you're, like, deep into Star Wars. You're not just surface level. Like, yeah, I know Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. So that was, like, my first kind of foray into it. Like, it was awkward. Like, I put too much stuff on the table. I was trying to make it look all cool. I forgot something. I forgot a whole tub of stuff. That's what it was. And I had to send my husband to go back and help. Like, your first market may be a hot mess, but it'll be okay. But once I realized, I was like, hey, I kind of like doing the in-person stuff. I don't know how I came across it because I'd never been to it before, but I saw about FanX, and I saw that they were going to be opening up their applications for, that would have been 2022. And so I applied, just kind of going, it can't hurt. Again, I had never been to FanX. I knew what it was and what would kind of be there. But I'd never, like, done a convention or gone to one. So I had no idea what to expect. And luckily I got in. And so that's the biggest convention that I do every year. It's tons of work, tons of prep. It takes me, 6 hours to get set up. But that one was, I don't know if I really did any others in 2022. But that one was the one that I think kind of built up my confidence. Then I'm like, wait, maybe I can do more of these. Because the crowd was great, got lots of feedback, sold way more in a day than I had ever done before. And I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. And so obviously there's not really any, like, Star Wars specific events here. So that's when I started looking into, like, the book related events, which has been, like, a great niche to go into, because when those, and typically when those bookish girlies come in, they are ready to drop money. Like, those always go well. Like, I love my bookish space. Like, those are some of the greatest people. So I do more of those events now. FanX is kind of like my big, like, nerdy convention where I cover both Star Wars and my book stuff, because both types of people go to that. And that's, like, the big one that I focus on, like, all year, like thinking about what am I going to do for FanX? Like, how am I going to change my setup? Because I like to kind of tweak it every year, and kind of brainstorming how I can improve what I'm going to do. Like, in fact, I was thinking about it again this week because we can start applying next month and hoping I can get in again. But so that's the big one where I'll bring out my Star Wars things. And I'd like to do more, or really any out-of-state events if I could. The only problem is transporting, especially candles and things like that. Kind of a pain. It's not like, pin creators where they can shove them in like a suitcase and bring it with them.
So jealous of illustrators and like print carriers.
Yeah.
Like I've seen
one
people...
suitcase of just all their prints.
Yeah.
Flat
right.
packed.
They pack up in like 30 minutes, and I'm like, that'd be great.
When we pack up our apparels, we have like boxes and boxes of
Yes,
t-shirts.
you understand the struggle.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And I can imagine with candles because they're glass.
and
like,
and they're heavy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, ideally, I would like to have like my own, say, like Ford Transit van where I can like pack everything up in that and travel with it. So hopefully someday I can do that, because there's plenty of other conventions and events that I'd love to do, or that I've even been invited to. And I'm like, that's 18 hours away in a drive. I'm like, I'd love to, but I don't know if I can do it. So that's kind of the goal. Because I'd love to do especially more Star Wars related stuff, because I'm like, those are my people. But in terms of like being here in Utah, the book events have really exploded. Yeah. So those have been fantastic to do.
Yeah. We were talking off camera with Star Wars Celebration, and man, I could only imagine you would kill at Star Wars Celebration.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to do San Diego Comic-Con, but also you guys need to lower your prices. Yeah. It's expensive.
San Diego Comic-Con is insane.
Yeah, but I'd love to do it because it'd be kind of thing. I'm like, again, these are my people. Way more than even FanX. I'm like, I'd love to do it, but just the logistics in my brain, I'm just like, I don't know if I could do it. At least now.
WonderCon's another one that's
yes, exactly.
WonderCon's another one that would be great. Yeah. There's so many great conventions, like
Dragon Con. Although so hopefully someday, but for now we'll just kind of keep it local. Maybe I'll go up to Idaho or Arizona or something, but
Okay, so I have to ask real quick. It's not exactly YA, but Utah book events, Utah authors. Any Brandon Sanderson?
I'm getting there. The problem is like, nobody shoot me for this, but I haven't read any of the books yet. Although I have started Mistborn. Although I realized it was probably about a year ago when I started it. I have 2 young kids, and I work all the time, and I wish I could. I just don't. I lose my focus, and I'm like, well, how many pages did I just miss? So no, I really want to.
Dense, so that's fair.
Which is totally cool.
And his audiobooks are like 50 hours long. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay. But so that is one of my goals, because since he's local, I'd be like, hey, I'm like literally right here.
Well, and his books are, I think they're awesome. I think they're amazing. I also love to read, and I listen to audiobooks when I sew, but yeah.
Yeah, and I've had people request it, so it's one of those things I'm like, I need to get on it and like just try and focus and tell my kids, I'm like, leave mommy alone. I am reading for the next hour. Because I'd absolutely love to. And I think there's an opportunity. I did, again, like a quick little Etsy search. And I think I saw like maybe a couple of candles out there people have done. And so I feel like if they would want to do that type of product, I mean, like, I am literally right here in Utah, like easy peasy. So thank you for the reminder. I will try and be more disciplined.
I'm just a fan, so I'm just, curious.
No, you're good. No, it's great. Yeah, so I would definitely love to. So I will shoot that as a goal for 2026. Oh my gosh, next year.
Right. Next month.
I know. Oh man. To see what I can do with that. I don't know. I think I briefly looked at his website, and there is like somebody to reach out to. So we'll see how hard or easy of a process it is, but we'll get there.
I want to talk about a little bit, because your market side of things, you're also doing some unique things where you open up your office space and do some cool sales right out of your office space as well. So what triggered that idea to kind of open up that space and do some stuff that way?
Good question. I think it probably stemmed from the fact that long-term goal is to open like a brick and mortar store, because one of the reasons for that is a lot of like the nerdy places in the valley typically, and again this is just a stereotype, seem to be a little more geared towards a more male audience. But obviously us girls are massive nerds too. And they like pretty nice things that smell good. And so I've wanted and been like daydreaming about like a nice space for everybody to come to that's not, going to play like D&D and stuff like that, which is totally great. Like I am not hating or insulting that at all whatsoever, but just creating a different type of nerdy space. Because like my whole tagline is luxury, geek, chic. So making just a cool place to like, if you want, you can just chill. Like I'd like to have like a seating area, but then also like check out, my products. And I'd like to carry other people's products as well that kind of fit in like the general kind of like vibe and aesthetic of my business. But since obviously doing a brick and mortar store is expensive, and I would not be able to run that by myself, and so I'd have to have a team, things like that. Kind of in the meantime, in February of this year, I got office space because I was before that doing it out of my home in a storage unit, and it was driving me up the wall, and I was so inefficient. I'm like, okay, I literally cannot do this anymore. And so I got this space, which is a little over 300 square feet, to have my office as well as the place where I make everything. And so I was looking at how I set it up. And I'm like, if I put like all of my bookshelves that I normally use at my markets, set it up in a similar way, like I have enough space that I could periodically have people come in, because I have people, and I totally understand where they're coming from. They're afraid to buy my products because I can't smell them beforehand. And so having this opportunity where people can come in and smell my stuff before they buy it, I thought that would be a good opportunity. And especially where my office is literally 5 minutes from my house, it's low risk that like, if it doesn't happen to go that well that day, I would had a few hours where I could literally just sit and read. And so luckily the handful of times I've done it, it's gone really well. Being able to give people the opportunity to either one, smell my products for the first time, or be able to just pick up the products and not have to like pay for shipping. So it's been kind of a random small idea that I have that has worked out so far pretty well.
Nice. So that kind of gives another outlet for people to kind of come through and kind of check out some cool stuff and everything.
Yeah.
What are some future plans for some like ideas and like potential like new products that you've kind of got that you might not, I guess that I don't want to give any secrets away. Like,
other than Brandon Sanderson.
That you might have coming down the pipeline.
So I'll be honest, I don't really have a ton of ideas right now. I think one of the big issues I've been having this year, and I know a lot of other small businesses can sympathize with this, is supply chain problems. Particularly where with my candle vessels, where I have a bunch of different colored ones because I tried to tie them as well as I could to either the character or location I was doing, which great idea in theory, and it gets lots of good feedback. But one of the main suppliers that I use, even the secondary one, they've been out of stock on some of the colors for literally months. And so I've been having to try and pivot here and there, or the thing that I pivoted to, all of a sudden that's now going out of stock for months. And so I've been trying to think a little more long-term of another type of, like, in this case, a candle vessel that I can use that will make things a little more streamlined, still look great, still be super high quality. That will kind of get rid of that issue where I'm constantly having things and different things going out of stock. And so that's kind of been the boring thing. I think for other people, it looks boring that I've been focusing on is just trying to deal with the supply chain issues I've been having basically all year.
Yeah.
And trying to get rid of some of that stress for myself. And so that's where I've been focused on. And I think I found a solution now that I'll start rolling out in the new year to just make things a lot easier, better for the customers as well. Because even though I have a banner on my website basically saying like, due to supply chain issues, you may receive a product that looks slightly different. And I have not had any complaints, but I know for me, it's been annoying that I can't give them the product that like is in the picture.
Yeah.
And so I want to basically change things over a little bit that like, I won't continue to have this problem because it's been driving me up the wall. This entire year, just constantly going, oh, I need to buy this. Then I go, okay,
Out of
it's out of
stock.
stock. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll give it a little bit. Like I've got a little back stock, should be okay for a bit. And then it's months and months and months of like, is this gonna come back ever?
Yeah, we're having the same issue.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say the
with
same issue with fabric. Yeah, no, it's been a huge problem.
Mhm.
It's one of
Yeah.
those like we're testing this, so you've just got to test that. Oh, okay, cool. We got
Yeah.
that. Oh, they don't have that anymore.
Yeah,
It's like cool.
Uh-huh.
Okay, what do we do now? It's like okay, we've got this supply. Nope, that supply is not available anymore.
Right? I just ran into that with like my air fresheners where I spent months trying to find ones that I liked because I was finding most of the companies were using the exact same ones. And I'm like, hey, I want mine to look a little different. Finally found ones that worked great because I tested them for months. And then probably a couple months after, I released them, went out of stock.
Yeah.
And I reached out because I was like, you going to get these back? Because I've also been trying to find the manufacturer of them. Just be like, all right, fine. I will just go straight.
yeah.
In this case, most likely to China and just have them shipped to me. Literally cannot find them. So I don't know where they came from. And obviously they won't tell me. And I'm just like, cool. So now I got to work through that again. I'm just like 2025. Stop. So the boring answer is nothing new on the horizon until I get
Yeah.
this all kind of squared away, get my website all updated because there's tons of pictures I have to take.
Mhm.
So my brain will then start to focus on something else once I get over this hurdle.
Yeah,
So,
it's one of those like logistic things before you can get to the creative things. And,
exactly.
like
Yep.
small business, like it's one of those like bummer parts about running small business is like you kind of lose the creative like aspect for a moment because you got to do all the logistics and
Yep.
like logistics is not creative.
No.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you're
No.
like, okay, cool. When am I going to get back to like the drawing side of
Yeah.
things or the creating side of things?
No,
It's
I
like,
was literally saying the same thing to my psychiatrist. I was like, I was worried I haven't been motivated, but I realized it's just because I have a bunch of like back end admin work I have to do that I don't want to do, and I want to do the fun stuff, and I'm like, what
Yeah.
the heck?
it's like we were doing all this stuff. We're like, okay, we've got all this apparel things that we want to do. I'm like, I have not been able to do anything because we're like trying to figure out what eco-friendly t-shirts are we going to go to in 2026 that we're going to be able to get supplies of before we do that. I'm like, okay, I have this idea. I have this idea. I have a list of all these cool ideas that I want to do. I'm like, when am I going to do those? Like, okay, we need to do this, 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 and this, and this before we can actually do any of that stuff. So I
Exactly.
totally know what you're struggling.
Yeah, my struggle is definitely not unique.
No.
It's just annoying.
Yeah. I think a lot of small businesses right now are doing this exact same thing and feeling that exact same struggle of trying to figure out how we just get it through this year till we get to next year. And hopefully when the next year starts, we'll be all clear and ready to start it and have everything planned out, right?
I hope.
Oh man. We are coming up close on time, but I want to make sure everyone's got an idea of where they can find more information about what you do and how they can kind of support what you're doing. But before we even get to that, I want to give you a chance to kind of give like some words of advice to other fellow makers and creators out there. I like to give people out there looking to maybe get started in this crazy maker world that we live in and everything, as we talk about all this bummer part of logistics
Yes,
and
right?
creative stuff and everything. But if you had like a piece of advice that people gave you before you got started with all this and you were able to give that to like people out there getting started, is there something out there that you could kind of like feed the fellow maker out there?
So I usually tell people two things. First, do lots of research, especially a lot of market research. Really understand what the market that you're trying to go into, what it looks like, what is your potential competition, what kind of niche do you think that you can fill, things like that. But don't be worried if you think that the market is oversaturated. Guaranteed it is. I mean, listen, I do candles. It's like a multi-billion-dollar industry. There's a lot of people out there doing it, but I'm still doing it, and I'm doing it, half decent. So that, goes into the second piece of advice. Just do it. Just try. And take this as from somebody who's very type A, very much a Virgo, where I overanalyze absolutely everything to death to the point that there's plenty of times that like I just don't do something because I'm just too afraid that like, what if I fail? Because failure, again, if you're a fellow Virgo, failure is not an option. But just do it. Just try. I mean, the worst thing is that, you'll fail. but at least you can look back and say like, hey, this is what I attempted to do. No, it didn't work out, but maybe you can use what you learned to pivot into something else. So those 2 things, do lots of research, and then 2, as Nike says, just do
it. Love it.
Where can they find more information, and like where can they go follow what you're doing?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok, although don't expect on TikTok that I'm doing any fancy dances. I am too old for that. I'm 38. You can find me there at the Nerf Herder Co, all one word. I'm also on Threads as well. Or you can go to my website, which is thenerfherderco.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us here in our basement, having a conversation about everything you're doing and making, and it's been fun. Guys, you know what to do at this point. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for joining us on this conversation. If you know other fellow makers in the greater Salt Lake or Salt Lake area, send them our way. We'd love to have a conversation about them, and we will see you on the next episode, guys. Thanks.
Bye.